Mouth is, if just think about the importance of the mouth. I mean, you hinted at it in Hebrew, but think about statements like God speaking the world into, Jesus speaking the world into being, and Paul talking about calling those things which are not as if they were. So you kind of understand that the mouth, and especially the speech that comes out of it, when you just start thinking about some of those fundamental statements, are very, very, very important. And so speech is very important to kind of Christian belief, and the mouth often represents speaking or declaring. Creative speech, the speech which discerns, when God said to Adam and Eve, name everything. So, and that's saying, well, this is what this is, and this is what this isn't. This because it's this is not that. So it often, speech has to do with being discerning about a thing, saying whether a thing is right or wrong, and so on and so forth. So speaking and declaring in many ways are often what the mouth has to do with, and things which can incapacitate us in that area. If there are problems with the mouth, or you're seeing something that's not right about the mouth, then it might be pointing to something like that. Teeth, we'll come on to teeth a bit later, but they're often to do with, teeth are to do with chewing things over. So it's your kind of ability to process something in your experience, or in the Word of God, or something that you've seen or read or heard or grasped. Process as in to understand, but also to the incisors to divide into two, which again is about discerning. It's this and it's not that. It's right, or it's wrong. When we talk about lips, then lips often have to do with flattery or praise or deceit, seduction, especially like if it's like red lipstick. That's often like a symbol of a seductive mouth. Digging up dirt on someone, folly, contention. So it can have to do with speech in that area. And the tongue, just think again about if there's something with the tongue is either, James talks about the tongue like being like a tiger and who can tame it. I think John says that if you've tamed your tongue, then you basically that's the last, you're there when it comes to your religion. And I think there's a proverb which talks about the tongue being like a rudder that steers the ship. It's such a small thing, but our speech influences our thoughts, and kind of drives us towards certain outcomes and perceptions. So that can be the way that the tongue pops up in dreams.
And it's interesting because sometimes the words that you say can actually be represented with a gun in a dream, and so it's often speaking about an authority to speak. And if you are shot by somebody, they have an influence or an authority over you, and it depends on where you shot and how they would affect you, but it's to do with speech and authority. And we had Renee say she had a dream about a hole in her foot, which I realized was she said something that had shot herself in the foot. Also, if you're using a knife, or somebody's using a knife on you or trying to attack you with a knife, it's cutting words. So that often can be something that's represented in your dreams, representing words or speech. And so that is, if you say, I haven't seen a mouth in my dream, but you probably might have had something to do with words or speech by dreaming about a knife or a gun.
Yeah,
so
that kind of flips it, doesn't it? So mouth is often related to speech, but speech also crops up as guns and knives. That's kind of the principle.
And it's interesting because microphones, we've had a few people sharing dreams actually about microphones and amplified voice. So a microphone, what is a microphone? It's an amplified voice. It's your voice being amplified. And I know that somebody had posted a dream about, and I think we've done this in dream interpretations our studio session, but it was about somebody Muslim having a microphone and their voice being amplified over her voice. And so that's what a microphone represents. I had a dream just this weekend, actually, about being given a microphone on a stage. And it was interesting because I've had such a heart for the younger generations, and that God really wants to speak to them and help them understand dreams and visions, and that dreams and visions are going to become a language to them. It's going to become one of the most natural things for them. So I was given a microphone to speak to different generations, and in the stream I was speaking to different generations. I was speaking to Gen X, I was speaking to what's Ethan's generation, Gen Y, Gen Z, Alpha. So there was a microphone to speak to the different generations. And so my sense of that is that God would give me a platform and a microphone to speak to the generations about the importance of dreams and visions and other prophetic symbolism. So you had an interesting dream about a microphone as well. Though.
Yeah. Just on that same theme, I had a dream that I was watching something on a laptop, I think, and there was a lady in a black dress with black hair. I didn't really see her face, but she was really skinny, and she had a microphone and she was saying something into it, and I was kind of watching this video, and I kind of knew, like, even when I woke up actually, that it's something in the spirit, because I'm looking at it on a laptop, so it's like it's a voice in a spiritual realm, and the black is either mystery or death, but because of the thinness of this woman, it was to do with, there's like no fat. That was how I described it. No fat on her, right?
It's interesting because it's like the thin cows and the fat cows.
Yeah.
And the thin cows come and swallow the fat cows, and the thin cows are talking about scarcity in Egypt, and that was Pharaoh's dream. And so that's speaking about scarcity, lack, problems with provision. So sorry, I interrupted, but I was, that came to my mind actually as I was sitting here. And so what do you think it was talking about? It's such an interesting dream. To me it was quite obvious that it was talking about the environment that we're in. You just have to turn the news on, and there are articles about the price of basic utilities going up, and the things you need for everyday life, like food prices going up, electricity and gas going up, the price of petrol put in your car and diesel. It's like it's all cost rises, but nobody's incomes are going up. So it's that voice in the environment which is trying to bring a fear of lack, right? We actually gave it a nickname. We called her Scarcity Winter.
Scarcity Winter, which is that voice of like it's a winter season when much is going to be growing, and this is what the voice says. And there's going to be scarcity, but we know from the promises of God that we do not need to be afraid of that voice, and so that's how we respond to it, in
but
trust.
It is very loud right now,
and that's the microphone part.
I don't know what's happening in South Africa at this time, but it feels like in the UK there is such a loud voice of fear, and a kind of her root is fear. And this is another thing that mouths can do, is it could be the mouth of the enemy speaking into our lives in an amplified way. And you see it on the news, you see it all the time of like, fuel prices are going up. Everybody's gone crazy about fuel prices, how high they are. We were speaking to our neighbors the other day about the fuel, and his business is fuel, so he's really under a lot of fear and pressure. It's the electricity is going up, and I felt God brought that to our attention, because what he's trying to say, and probably to other people, is do not let her have a voice. It's really important at this time that we do not let fear of lack have a voice, because we have to go back to the word of God. And what was your response to that dream? I'm just interested, because we speak about response, and so when there's a lie from the enemy about scarcity and lack of provision, how did you respond to that dream?
That's interesting, because the frame of the dream was something a bit different. It was because I'd been watching this video, because I perceived the thing in my dream. I perceived the thing. I was on Facebook on the same laptop, and I was going to connect to 4 people who I was going to work with. They were going to be work colleagues. So it's interesting for me. There's something in that dream about a recognition of of the source of that voice was going to connect, and this is a recurrent theme in my recent dreams of four things, and I was going to connect to 4 people, and there was going to be a work involved with it. So for me, it turned that thing into a promise. It's like, okay, so the scarcity season is actually going to start the work of God, and that's interesting. So if you just think about, for me, as a dream interpreter, I think a lot about Joseph in Genesis 40, mid-40s, and chapters in the mid-40s, and his is the classic story of God's providence and provision in scarcity, and actually through dreams, through understanding dreams. So he's able to make a plan by which his family is saved. His family is saved, and he says that the sort of the pivotal comment at the end is, who knew God brought me to this place so that I might preserve life, and it's God will always make a way to do that.
It's where his family grow the most.
Yeah,
it's actually where Israel is birthed, in a sense. That's where Israel grows and they become big and strong, and it came on a difficult season, but God actually did something miraculous in that. So the other thing, you actually had a dream once about red lipstick and a mouth talking to you, and you knew it was also a voice of the enemy, and it was a seduction. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that.
It was a weird dream. I think I've spoken about it before, but I went into a sort of what I thought was a false tree of life, and saw this enormous principality, is what I thought it was. And it had part of its anatomy was this red lipstick mouth, but it was unclean. It was like a very unclean mouth, but with bright red lipsticks. And for me, in that dream, it related to the power of desire. It's actually the power of desire, which is what drives the world system of ownership and fighting over resources. So in that dream, for me, the red lipstick represented the ability of words sown by the enemy to create desire, which caused people to fight.
About kissing. So I've often had dreams about God kissing me, actually, God's mouth, which, and obviously, if I think about God, he breathed life into Adam, and that's where he breathed his breath right into Adam. So if you dream about God kissing you or breathing over you, what he's doing is he's imparting his life to you. So in my one dream, God the Father actually kissed me on the forehead, which was, I think, him imparting some of his thoughts into my mind. But I think it also showed an intimacy with him and a fatherly love of him kissing my forehead. And then I've had often dreams about where Jesus kisses me on the cheek or on the lips, and that often speaks about Jesus imparting something into my life. Kissing is about imparting some of his life into my mouth and into my life, but also it speaks about a joining and a union with him.